Welcome to week 3 of 52 Needs, and this week is all about clarity. And I'm delighted to have with me Suzy Scullin, who's a decluttering and organizing specialist. She has a bachelor's degree in interior design, but she gets great pleasure out of creating order and structure. So, Suzy, tell us more about what you do in sense of how do you create clarity through removing clutter?
It's a great question. It's a basic question, and oddly, I don't know why I always have trouble answering it, but because it just seems so natural to me. Clutter of any form, whether it's lots of thoughts, lots of things, lots of stuff, it creates confusion. Generally, over time, it creates overwhelm, but it's overload. There's just too much. And again, everybody I'm sure has experienced it with thoughts. You just got loads going on, and just it just gets too much.
Yes.
So it's a case of eliminating and removing excess, basically, to strip it back to what's really needed and what you can focus on.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about leadership and having an office and, having clarity in that, I mean, I've heard people say, like Albert Einstein was said, like if a cluttered mind is the sign of, it didn't quite put it that way, but if a cluttered mind is a sign of genius, what does an empty mind desk signify?
I've been reading into this a little more recently. There's actually a couple of things here going on, and there's some very famous, highly successful people, many of them creatives, that had, very messy desks. I just saw a picture last night of Steve Jobs, and I just looked at the office and went, oh my God, but if it worked for him, What I tend to forget personally is, because I've got a shocking memory, I have to be able to see things. And if it disappears underneath something, it no longer exists, or I just assume that it's lost in the ether, and so you get another one or whatever, but so for people that have got really great memories, then perhaps more stuff they can deal with, because they know where they've put that piece of paper in that pile. So that's always good to remember from the viewpoint of me helping people, is, where are they at, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there is a study that's been done that shows that creativity is impacted if things are too clean and tidy. So a little bit of mess, a little bit of messiness, I'm not talking extreme clutter, but a little bit of messiness seems to not assist, but you're less likely.
I did an interview with Sabrina Klein last week, and we talked about inspiration, and she actually recommends that we have a couple of small items on our desk to get inspired, but that's not messiness. That's not
this actually showed it was quite an interesting study, because they had to monitor how they did things very carefully. But when things were really neat and tidy, people were more inclined to conform and be conventional or whatever, and where there was some messiness, they were more creative.
Right.
So there's a fight. I mean, I was almost distraught. I was like, oh my God. but there's obviously an element of truth to that.
Well, I think there's a difference between clutter in the sense of I can't be bothered removing it, or I'm just letting it pile up, and purposeful clutter, where you have things around you that you really need at some point.
Yes.
I mean, I know that I will have a notepad on my desk that I write things down on.
Yeah.
But I'm having piles of papers that I know I will never look at again, or that need to be really filed because I never look at them again.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think the kinds of people that can handle all of that stuff, that have the great memories and are very creative, Um, I don't know whether they're few and far between. I'd be, in, my inclination is to say to people, don't um, don't think that don't use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm not creative. Just, see
Yeah.
how you go with if you're finding that you're stressed, that you're not getting work done, so on and so forth. Then chances are you're not one of those. If productivity is being impacted, then
Mm,
chances are you need to tidy things up.
yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's important to have, I mean, clarity is really important, especially when you're in any kind of leadership role. And I always start leadership with the self.
yeah,
So for me, self leadership is absolutely important. But if you don't
absolutely.
have clarity, how can you convey a vision?
That's
So
right.
if your mind is
That's
cluttered and if you're surrounded by lots of things. But let's talk about just very briefly, because I know that that's not your area, but I know that, for example, if I don't organize my files on my computer really well and I can't find things, that drives me crazy as well.
right.
So knowing where I put things so I can actually have access to them, especially since a lot of my things are on Dropbox and I can't use I can't go to the computer and just go look for this. I have to go sign into Dropbox, get it all
Yeah,
out. And
yeah,
I just have to know where things are.
yeah,
So again,
definitely.
clarity in my mind really translates into clarity and action.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, as somebody said to me last week, the brain can only really handle 4 or 5 things at a time. You know,
Maximum. Yeah, I would
maximum.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've got anything beyond that, and visually, whether that, I mean, visually can be the files on your computer. You look at that,
Mm,
that file manager, and you know, it can be just mad if
yeah.
it doesn't make sense to you. So visual clutter does impact the brain. There's been studies done and so forth that um, you know, there's that difference in MRI scans of how the brain is functioning and
Mm,
responding when things are cleared away and so forth. So there is, there's absolute fact behind that. Brain can only handle so much. After that, it's overload. And once you get into overload and overwhelm, you're not functioning properly.
mm,
And if you're not functioning properly, then you're not working at your best. So how can you be um, the best leader?
yeah, exactly.
You know.
So basically what you're recommending is if you want to get any kind of clarity on something you're working on, clean up your desk.
Well, yeah, keep it tidy, clean it up, and what I find really busy people, and generally people in leadership roles are very busy. The first excuse is I don't have time,
Mm,
and my comeback is you don't have time not to do this because you're losing time. Every time you try to find something, you're losing
yeah,
time. And so take an hour, 2 hours at the most of the time to get something tidied up, unless you've let things really, really, really go. Either
yeah,
way, it's worth putting the time in to
yeah,
get it tidied up because you're going to gain that down the track
yeah.
really quickly. You can lose an hour to 2 hours a week
At
looking for
least.
stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, it's only because it's in those little tiny bits you ignore it,
yeah.
But if you could do a time and motion study, you'd be really
Probably.
shocked.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely just make the time and do it.
Mm.
Clean it up.
No, I'm not necessarily somebody who says we have to be mindful of other people in the sense of we're driven by other people's perceptions and have to comply and get approval and all of that. But I would say that as a leader, it would still impact if you have a really messy desk and you have meetings, with your team. There would be a kind of perception around,
Yeah,
a really messy desk. What is your
yeah. Look,
experience?
let's face it. People are judgy. We're all judgy, to some degree, and I actually kind of feel that if you've got a bunch of years behind you and you've got lots of runs on the board, big runs on the board, and you're a highly productive person and your desk looks like a fight, then, people will probably go, oh, that's just, that's how they work. And,
Yeah.
you're respected for all of those other things. And so the desk is just you know, the messy desk is part of it. But until you get there, yeah, I think you need to be a little cautious, and because it's very easy to be judged on that, particularly if you add it to you're not being, you're not quite organized, you're late for meetings or
Yeah.
things like that, you know. Then yeah, just try to get a little discipline in there. And
Okay, so basically, guys, keep it clean, keep your desk really tidy, but not too tidy to inspire some creativity also in the people around you, and get a really clear mind through being uncluttered. Thank you so much, Suzy. That was really great.
you're
And
welcome,
I really
Angela.
look forward to talking to you again soon.